rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. And apparently, at least according to some of my Whiskey Warrior P1s, I am now not only international, but I am intergalactic. That's a strange thought, isn't it? That what I'm transmitting here is being sent out into space, and some alien may be out there picking up my voice. Of course, it'll be, a few billion light years later, but yeah, they're picking up my voice, and they're judging the human race based on what I put out on this show. Whoa. Okay, I don't even want to get into it. Anyway, apparently the Kentucky Derby occurred today, and oh, yeah, I guess the illegals might be listening. Illegal aliens. Anyway, the Kentucky Derby occurred today. I don't know who won, but, good on you for the horse. It's just one of three, for those that don't understand. In order to gain the Triple Crown, they got to do the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes are the three races, and they all happen within the next couple of months. I think that it's like the Kentucky Derby kicks it off, and then in a couple more weeks, that I think it's the Preakness is the one in the middle, and then the last one is the Belmont Stakes. Anyway, yeah, okay. Oh boy, my chat's already nuts. We're not even there yet, and they're already going crazy. All righty, folks, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. I believe it is 3 Chevy's turn up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand or remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with 3 Chevy as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and I thank you, 3 Chevy, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the pledge or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email address and send it, or attach it to an email and address it to me. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. If you decide to use your phone, you can also send it via the phone by clicking on the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option. And, yeah, the S-H-A-R-E option, and it'll allow you to send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. We have a special birthday, so somebody, since my unofficial producer is doing her official job, somebody is going to have to remind me at the end of the show, please, because of course it is a special person for this special day, and I will go ahead and take care of the birthday wish at the end of the program. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. I'm drinking out of the Jefferson Reserve. There it is. The Jefferson Reserve bottle. And it is in the glass. One of the call them the Wonder Twins. One of the Wonder Twins glass, this one is the It Takes Stones to Drink with Whiskey. You can't see the with whiskey because it's kind of cold. It's condensation got on there, but yeah, it does take stones to drink with me, and there's the stones right there in the bottle, or in the bottom. So here we go. Oh. All right. And tonight's headline sponsor is, of course, none other than the Institute on the Constitution. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday is Institute on the Constitution's Day. And if you head on over to theamericanview.com, that's theamericanview.com, you'll be able to see what I am talking about in terms of the fantastic information and books and so on and so forth. For the I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. The chat's got something, and it just reminded me of something. I'll tell you a story here in just a minute. I got to give my time to the American View. I mean, seriously, I got to give my time to the Institute on the Constitution. So the Institute on the Constitution, of course, is a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. And from a biblical worldview. Now, they have 3 steps to help, for you to help, to restore the republic. Step number 1, of course, is to pray. Obviously, you want to pray every day. I mean, you should be praying every day. But if you're hung up on prayer, you can go to theamericanview.com, go to the bottom of the page and sign up for their daily prayers. They will send daily prayers directly to your inbox every single day. And all you have to do is sign up for that wonderful, wonderful service that they provide. Second step, of course, is to study. Now, people ask all the time, they're like, well, what do you study? Well, you must study the U.S. Constitution. And the way you can do that is by heading over to theamericanview.com/study and sign up right here above my head. You'll see the form. All you have to do is put in your first name, last name, and your email address. And once again, once you click that Get Lesson 1 for free, you will be enrolled in the 100% free, nationally recognized online course. They have 12 short lessons to work from. They send one every single week. So it's 12 weeks. They send one every single week to your email box automatically. The courses are roughly 15 to 20 minutes long, and they cover the U.S. Constitution, again, from a biblical worldview. Then, after you finish that online course, you can go and check out their in-person courses and see if you can pick up one of them. You can go and grab information from them on it. They have them in South Dakota, Ohio, Maryland, California. There's some more here. Let's see. There's one in Texas as well. In July, you can go and check out all of those by heading over to theamericanview.com and pick up, register for one of their courses. And then the last step, obviously, is to act. Now, of course, taking a class is acting, literally acting, but you can also become a member of the Institute on the Constitution, or you can act to become an instructor. Now, this is obviously what they would really love, is for you to become an instructor and provide the information that you receive and have learned in your community. And you can do that by becoming an instructor for them. They have a video. It's a short 5-minute video. It tells you how to become an instructor. It's right here on at theamericanview.com under ACT, Become an Instructor. And you'll be able to pick that up. And then you can also check out their 5 tips for a successful class. You want to be a success at this. This is something important. I mean, being able to re-educate our country about our founding documents of the Constitution, in particular, among others. You really want to have a successful class, and they can help you out. They've got 5 tips for a successful class right there. They also will allow you can purchase the instructor kit, and this has everything you need in it, including the slides, PowerPoint slides. They have videos. They have all kinds of information with regards to the biblical worldview and the Constitution and how we fit within it. And you can go and grab that, not only in their shop, but also on the Become an Instructor page. And you head on over to their shop, by the way, and you'll be able to pick up other educational resources, apparel, the instructor materials, as I pointed out, and my personal favorite right here above my head, which is the Legacy Library. Oh, yes, the Legacy Library, full of leather items. Ugh, I would love to be able to get the leather Declaration of Independence framed, the Bill of Rights framed, the Magna Carta framed, as well as the U.S. Constitution. There's 4 of those, 4 framed leather U.S. Constitution. That would be just fantastic. But because I'm not in a place where I can do that just yet, I'll take just the leather Constitution book, which is right here. You'll see the picture moving in the video, but it's right here. It's the leather Constitution book. And I happen to have one right here in my hot little hands. Yes, this is the Saddleback rounded cornered book that, when purchased, will cause liberals to grow stones, kidney stones, gallstones, whatever kind of stones. But hey, that's a start. And according to G, the stitching is rated durable enough to use in alien outerwear. And apparently these aliens, and we're talking about the outer worldly aliens, approve this constitutional content, as well as the use of stones in whiskey. That comes from G. And yes, the corners are sexy. Anyway, let's take a closer look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. And as we pointed out, no cheap glue here. It is stitched all the way through the leather, and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem with this thing, you can send it back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for free anytime in that 100 years. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to achieve your civics badge in scouting, as well as your civics exam. And hey, even the naturalization test. Get one of these. I'm telling you, it has a lot of the answers that you're looking for right here. Head on over to theamericanview.com, shop Legacy Library, and pick your copy up today. Hey, pick up a couple of them and hand them down, because they are fantastic keepsakes. They're little pocket guides to the U.S. Constitution you can carry around with you. I'm going to tell you, if I was in Congress, I would not go anywhere without that book. But I'm not in Congress. So there you go. Head on over to theamericanview.com, view the Institute on the Constitution's offerings, and I thank them for being a sponsor of this show. All righty. Well, I'm being poked and prodded by none other than the boss herself, and my unofficial producer gave her the power to poke and prod me for doing this. So if I miss this, I'm going to be in serious trouble. So let's go ahead and kick off the first segment of tonight's show, which is On This Day in American History. See, and I even saw it coming around, and I screwed it up. So there you go. This is all on me. But anyway, For on this day in American history, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb, chock full with all kinds of information and factoids about this wonderful country that we call home. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the Iron Horse. No, I'm not talking about the steam locomotive. At least I don't think so. No, I'm not. On May 2nd, 1939, loudspeakers at Yankee Stadium stunned the crowd with the announcement that New York first baseman Lou Gehrig would not be in the day's lineup. Gehrig, who was a fan favorite, had compiled a lifetime batting average of .340. He had slugged 493 home runs during his career, including 23 grand slams and an average staggering 147 RBIs, that's runs batted in, per season. But his most amazing stat was his streak of 2,130 consecutive games played. For 13 years, he had played through good times and bad, including 17 fractures and numerous other injuries without missing a single game. The son of working-class German immigrants showed up day after day to give his best in his steady, quiet way. His endurance earned him the nickname the Iron Horse. But Gehrig had not played well lately. He could tell something was wrong with his body. He had trouble hitting the ball. In the field, he was having trouble getting to first base in time to take a throw. So he ended his streak. "I'm benching myself," he told his manager, "for the good of the team." Medical exams brought a bleak diagnosis: amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS, a disease of the nervous system. The chances of long-term survival were slim. Gehrig took the blow with courage and grace, telling friends that he hoped for the best. On July 4th, 1939, Lou Gehrig stood on the field in a packed Yankee Stadium to say goodbye. Surrounded by friends, family, teammates, and fans, the first baseman stepped up to the microphone. He said, "For the past 2 weeks, you have been reading about the bad break I got. Yet today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of this earth." Gehrig died 2 years later from the disease that we now bear his name. Sports fans still remember him as the Iron Horse. And that is today's On This Day in American History. You know, when we have our our idols, I guess is what we call them, when we have our idols fall, we are reminded oftentimes of our own humanity. And when you have somebody who has something like that and makes an announcement like that, it can sometimes be, devastating for some, because some people, they put a lot of stock in things like sports and all of that, sports or any other kind of, whether it's entertainment or whatever. We as Americans, we often put a lot of stock in those people. I mean, we even have people who are, massive influencers in the social media space. And oh my gosh, we tend to put these people on a pedestal. And so when something like that, especially a person who literally just goes around quietly doing his job, because that was his job, not asking for fanfare, not asking for a whole bunch of, special adulation or anything along those lines. And when they get hit with something as devastating as what we now call Lou Gehrig's disease, it can have an impact. It can have an impact. It certainly did back in 1939 when he left baseball. All righty, folks. Let's go ahead and first let me start off with a drink real quick here. All right. So now that SCOTUS has done what they've done, and they've basically said that no, Section 2 is only to be applied in certain cases where it is clearly demonstrative that race is a factor in and being detrimentally used in redistricting. Otherwise, it's a very narrow and distinct case as to why it would Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act would come into play. Well, now we need to take a look at the states. And now what is potentially going to happen here in the near future, because especially dealing with the midterms coming up. Well, in Just the News, they have a list of states that are already moving this week with regards to the Supreme Court decision striking down the map of Louisiana, which was forced by the court to create a specific minority-driven district. And for those of you who haven't really been watching this or paying attention to this, many times these districts that are forced because of race, meaning that they need a majority-minority district, many times these districts are, well, let's just say, very oddly shaped. Now, keep in mind, most of the time, redistricting or districts themselves are defined as to, they're supposed to be contiguous. They're supposed to be representative of, social, maybe not necessarily all social, but common groups of individuals as they're defined within the idea of redistricting. And so oftentimes what you'll find is you'll find redistricts or districts that are set up in certain ways, such as, a all urban district or a all rural district. It's rare for you to actually find a district that is crossing both urban and rural centers, because rural people generally have different values and are looking for different representation necessarily. They have different, what do we call goals? They have different goals. And so when you look at something like what these racial districts are doing, for an example, in the state of Illinois, where they have a district that sort of snakes through the entire state, the question comes to mind as to whether or not everything or everybody within that district is actually aligned from a social standpoint or cultural standpoint or something like that. And so what you end up with is these districts that are, when they're created by race, they're no longer contiguous. They're no longer covering a specific, shall we call it a geographical area. And so because of this, they tend to, when race is used as a primary reason for the district to exist, you basically throw out all of the other criteria and you pretty much just use race as the purpose. And so this is part of the reason why the Supreme Court ruled the way that they did. Now, that being said, several states across the U.S. have now, they're starting to look at things and they're going, we need to evaluate whether or not our current districting is able to comply with the Supreme Court ruling now that race is no longer supposed to be used as a primary factor in districting. So in Alabama, and here's the key states that have moved this week. Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey ordered a special session for the state legislature next week to pave the way for redistricting in Alabama. Florida has already started redistricting, and the state legislature approved new districts. I'm not sure. I remember the House did, but I'm not sure if the Senate has complied with that just yet. I know it was sent to the Senate. Maybe one of my Whiskey Warrior P1s in Florida might be able to tell me whether or not the Senate, the state Senate, has approved it. In Louisiana, we already know that Governor Jeff Landry has postponed all of the state house primaries while the state works on the new congressional map. Now, to be honest with you, I think the easiest way to handle this would be to flip the congressional map back to the map that was prior to the forced redistricting to create that black minority prevalent district. According to the courts, I think that they would probably go. It would probably be easier for them to just use the first map that they proposed, but we'll see what happens with that. In South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster, well, he actually stopped short of ordering a review yesterday, but he did hint that the state might want to review its districts to ensure that those districts are in line with the Supreme Court ruling. Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee has already called for a special session of his state legislature to review their congressional maps. We also have two other states that have signaled they have plans to review maps in the future. One of them, of course, being Georgia, where Governor Brian Kemp has already said, well, it's too late to redistrict in this election cycle for 2026. However, the decision requires that the state must adopt new maps by 2028. So 2026 may be too close, is what he's saying, but 2028 is certainly on the table. And Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves said that he is going to call a special session to take place 21 days after the Supreme Court ruling. And so they're going to take a look and try to figure that out. Now, Virginia and California have already attempted to redraw their congressional maps. Virginia's, of course, is still stuck at the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court. And my guess, based off of the questions that are being asked and the movement of the court, like I said earlier this week, my guess and money would be on, if I were a betting individual, would be on the fact that the Virginia Supreme Court is going to say, yeah, no, this was illegal. And therefore, Virginia will probably get kicked out. Now, the California one, of course, the U.S. Supreme Court has already declined to hear challenges to California's new map. So the U.S. Supreme Court has declined to hear those as of now. My guess is that they're still percolating through the court because through the state court system, regardless, because those were more than likely emergency injunctions that hit the U.S. Supreme Court first. So we'll just have to kind of see where all of this is going to go. So, yeah. It looks like we have several states that are already looking at redistricting. Now, obviously, this is a challenge for the Democrats Because the Democrats themselves, well, they kind of have a little bit of a problem. Now, keep in mind this whole redistricting. Now, both sides gerrymander, all right? Let's just face it. The gerrymandering has been a part of our political system for literally as long as it has been in play. The challenge here, though, is that the Republicans generally don't play quite the same dirty rules that the Democrats do. And the Democrats, of course, utilizing race because God knows they love using race as a primary reason for doing everything that they do because, well, let's face it, they literally have the soft bigotry of low expectations at a minimum. You know, they don't believe, for whatever reason, they don't believe that Americans as a whole, but especially minority Americans, can actually use their brains to think. They honestly don't, they don't like the idea, or they don't consider the idea that persons of color can not only take care of themselves without government intervention, but also they don't like the idea of, well, you know, and they consistently think that, well, you know, a person of color is not smart enough to get things like ID. So, again, all of this sort of indicates that they rely heavily upon minority voting, in particular, the black vote. Well, there's a bit of a problem here. And our buddy, Harry Enton over at CNN, you know, I'm surprised that this guy's not fired yet because he actually tells the truth rather than, you know, sugarcoating it or slanting it in some partisan fashion. But Harry Enton over at CNN kind of maybe has, this might be a reason why the Democrats are so pissed off about this whole thing. Let's go ahead and take a quick listen.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republican Party are chipping away at the long-term advantage that Democrats have had with black voters, with African Americans. You can see it right here. Look, Trump's approval among African Americans at this point in term one, he was at 12%. You know, he's been losing ground with a lot of groups. He's gaining ground with African Americans. He's up to 16% at this point. And you say, this isn't that big of a shift. But I will tell you, Republicans absolutely love this shift that's going on because Democrats have had such a long-term advantage. The fact that he's actually gaining ground versus where he was in term number one, this has major implications for elections down the line because Democrats, especially in a lot of these tight races, you talk about places like Georgia, right down in the South, you see this type of movement for Trump actually gaining ground. This could have major ramifications and help put Republicans over the top in a number of southern places in the midterm elections.
But do you see this as part of a bigger trend?
I see this as absolutely part of a bigger trend. Donald Trump's Republican Party is absolutely gaining ground, not just him gaining in terms of his approval rating, but look at the party ID margin, Kate, because this to me was absolutely stunning. Look at this party ID margin among African Americans. At this point in Trump term number one, Democrats had a 63-point advantage. That is absolutely fallen. Look at where it is now. A double-digit shift away. Democrats, of course, still have the advantage, but it's a 12-point shift to the Republican Party. And I look back through Gallup's records. They sent me their records. And this, in fact, lead that Democrats have is actually smaller than any lead from 2006 to 2021. So Democrats are leading. But again, we're talking about chipping away. Republicans are chipping away at this long-term advantage that Democrats have had among African Americans. We see it in terms of Trump's approval rating, and we even see it to a wider degree among the party ID margin, where all of a sudden there are a number of African Americans who are walking away from the Democratic Party and a number of them who are walking into the Republican tent.
That is very interesting, looking at that past Gallup information.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the race for control in Congress?
Okay, so you see this right here. You see this 51-point advantage that Democrats have, significantly less than you see that 63-point advantage. And what we will note was back in 2024, right, Donald Trump put in a historically strong performance among African Americans. Democrats performed the worst in a generation. Have they gained any of that coalition back from where they fell down to in 2024? But take a look here. Okay, choice for election among African Americans. Kamala Harris was leading amongst that group in the pre-election polling by 63 points. Are Democrats gaining back any of that ground? It's a 62-point advantage now. Republicans are holding on to the gains that they made among African Americans in 2024. Republicans are gaining among African Americans. They are chipping away at that long-term advantage. The Donald Trump-led Republican Party is making gains among African Americans that we simply put have not seen the Republican Party make in a generation.
Fascinating. Good to see you here. Thanks
Nice
so
to
much
see
for
you,
putting
Kate.
it together.
You see, the Democrats are freaking out right now. They are freaking out. And the reason why they're freaking out is because of the fact that Donald Trump and by proxy, the Republican Party have been taking away from their assumed, and this is the thing, their assumed base. Now, I got to be completely honest with you. If we were to carry this into, say, the Electoral College, and we were to make a change in the Electoral College where every single district voted the way that the district voted in presidential elections. In other words, what I mean is that Electoral College representative who is representing the district from the state can vote for who that district has determined, because the 48 of the states in the Electoral College, 48 of the states do a winner-take-all, meaning that if the winner of the entire state, regardless of how the state may have voted, so for an example, if you look at California, Oregon, Washington, New York, even in some other places like Illinois, if you look at those places on a county by county or district by district map, they actually have a vast majority of districts that are Republican, counties that are Republican. And so what you end up with here, if you were to go and say, well, 48 states, guess what? You can no longer do the winner-take-all methodology. You have to, for every single district, however that district voted or passed in terms of the popular vote in that district, however that district passed, that's where you get a singular electoral college vote. And what would be interesting in this particular case, mathematically speaking, is you would no longer have things like a guaranteed Democratic win in Washington or a guaranteed Democratic win in California. You would have, obviously, the state senators would probably go off of the two electoral college votes that represent the state senators, would probably go off of however many people in the entire state voted. But if you were to basically say, hey, every single district can only vote, in other words, they can only cast their electoral college ballot for whoever won the popular vote within that district, well, now all of a sudden, you'd have an extremely different possibility in terms of presidents. All you'd have to do is take a look at the county by county electoral map based off of Donald Trump's victory just this last time in 2024. See, places like Wisconsin and, some of the other quote unquote blue wall states, the swing states would no longer be swing. And in fact, what would end up happening is the candidates would be able to not just focus on those, or they would be forced, I should say, to not just focus on those states, but to actually campaign to the entire country. Because then it would be about collecting the most electoral districts than it would be trying to win specific states. See, I got into a little bit of a discussion with a person on Facebook, and they kept saying, popular vote, popular vote. No, No, the popular vote is basically mob rule, and you would have the cities of Los Angeles, San Francisco, pretty much all of the cities in California, all of the cities in New York, and a few cities like Chicago, and a couple of maybe one or two other states that would actually like take over the entire country for the vote of the president. You would never see, if that was the case, if you said, hey, popular vote is what takes it, the presidency, whoever the candidates were for president, they would only campaign in California, New York, and Illinois, for an example. It would basically turn into what would essentially be more eloquently spoken of as mob rule. Because again, keep in mind, our republic is a republic because we put the individual first. We put individual rights first. Therefore, the mob, meaning 51% of the vote, or even, let's be honest, 49.00001% of the vote, 50.0001% of the vote can't overrule the other 49.9999, whatever it is. See, that's what a true democracy has, and that's why popular vote is not, that is not the way to go. Eliminating the Electoral College basically turns us into a mob rule, pure democracy, and that is not what the framers and founders wanted. They wanted nothing to do with that. Well, the problem, of course, that you see right now is that the leftists in the Democrat Party, they've been able to hold on because they cannot argue with the average American. They cannot argue their position based off of their stances on decision making. I mean, just look at, for an example, voter ID. Voter ID right now is supported by 83% across the board of Americans, even 71% in the Democrat Party want voter ID. See, the ideas that the Democrats and especially the far left have, nobody wants. Nobody wants to mutilate your child's genitals by allowing them to do transgender surgeries as young as age 3. I mean, seriously, nobody with any kind of actual intelligence would agree with that in any way, shape, or form. And they don't. But yet the Democrats who live in this echo chamber believing that, hey, we've got the vote because they have lock and control of voting blocks and groups like Black Americans who've been voting Democrat for literally decades. They think that they have the upper hand and the advantage here because the Republicans want to sit here and argue over the substance of the arguments. They want to argue over policy, over facts, over the actual, what's actually going on. And the Democrats don't use those arguments. They don't use logic and reason. They use emotional arguments, such as, because you can't get ahead. It has nothing to do with the fact that you made poor choices. It has everything to do with the fact that there is a systemic racism in America, that white people are holding you back, that they are to blame for your problems, which is classic Marxist demagoguery. Because again, the Marxists believe that, well, the proletariat, the reason why the proletariat exists is because the bourgeoisie keeps them down. It is the workers that need to revolt against the factory owners because they're the ones that are to blame for all of your problems. Oh, and let's go even further back, or maybe further forward, and let's look at Germany. Oh, the reason why you're having problems today in Germany is because of those Jews. It's because of the Jews. And what was that? That was the Nazis. That was Hitler. Yeah. They all have the same general trend to blame others rather than the American principle and ideals and values, which are, no, I take personal responsibility for my actions, for what I do, and it is because of me that I either don't get ahead or don't have what I have or don't get what I want. And that's something that the Democrats cannot allow, because what that does is that empowers people. It empowers the individual. It empowers the person, the American person, the American individual, to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm the only one holding me back. My drive, my desire, my abilities are what's holding me back. And that's something the Democrats can't have. Because if that becomes the generic principles again within our country, the Democrats can no longer exist, because they don't have a boogeyman anymore. They don't have a boogeyman to go after. And they can't use individuals and voting blocks such as Black Americans to stay within power and shove down a whole slew of totally irrational pushing laws and that kind of stuff down the throats of Americans. And this is furthered, by the way, that if you take a look at the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party, which is essentially the elitist media. Well, the elitist media, they absolutely hate Black conservatives, because Black conservatives have stepped off and been like, hey, you know what? White people have zero responsibility today for my position in life. And so the first thing that they do is they go after Black conservatives. Case in point, Clarence Thomas, a staunch Black conservative on the Supreme Court. They go after him. They go after him all the time. And by the way, after the 6-3 vote to overturn this Voting Rights Act district in Louisiana, this unconstitutional district in Louisiana, the local Deseret News out of Utah in Salt Lake City prominently featured an Associated Press photo of one lone Black protester in front of the court holding a sign that basically said, "Thurgood is watching you, Clarence," implying that Thurgood Marshall was disappointed in Clarence Thomas. Now, Mike Lee called this out, and he tweeted, he goes, "They're going after Justice Thomas for being conservative while Black." And he goes, "That's racist," which it absolutely is. It is racist. See, everything that the Democrats do, where they sit there and they talk about, oh yeah, you know, you're gonna change and make it to where you have to show an ID. Oh, that's Jim Crow 2.0 right away. Oh, those nasty Republicans and conservatives are seeking to put you all back in chains. Remember when Biden said that? Understanding not that conservatives don't really care. They honestly don't really care. And in fact, right now, there is 64 Black representatives in the House of Representatives, or within Congress, let's say, today. 64. Of those 64, 60 of them are Democrat. Of those 60, only 24 actually come from the majority-minority districts that the Supreme Court just overturned and said you can no longer do that. Only 1/3, a little bit over 1/3 of the 60 Democrats come from majority-minority districts. Does that give you an indication at all that there is a systemic racism problem in elections today? And by the way, the social media has been running around. People have been there. Oh, my God, the Supreme Court has taken away black voters' rights. No, they haven't. Black Americans, black American citizens can still vote without any problems. They can still have representation. They can still have proper representation, even if the districts are changed. They're still going to have proper representation. Unlike what happens in some of the northern districts or northern states, where the Democrats have literally gerrymandered the entire state to be a complete Democrat state. And again, kind of keep in mind, okay, this is making it so that the state itself is believed to be 100% Democrat, but they're not. They actually have percentages ranging anywhere from 40 to 50 to sometimes even 60%, in some cases, Republican voters. That if you actually look at the county by county breakout, the vast majority of the state, anywhere from a half to 2/3 of some of these states, are actually voting Republican. But yet they have zero representation because of the way that the Democrats have gerrymandered their districts. See, and all of this is garnered toward and focused toward keeping, in terms of black Americans, from, I'm going to say, gaining the realization that, oh my gosh, I actually am allowed to think for myself. And this is what Harry Enton was pointing out. The black Americans are starting to realize that, well, first of all, the Democrat Party hasn't really done anything for us. I mean, think about this. Detroit, Michigan has been under Democrat control for literally decades. And they haven't really pulled themselves out of anything in a very long time. They're still living in depressed areas. And so there are black Americans who are waking up and they're saying, you know what? Maybe this pattern isn't exactly the way that it should go. I mean, why should I continue to vote Democrat when all they're going to do is sit here and tell me that because I happen to be black, I'm too stupid to have an ID when I have an ID right here in my pocket to go around and do all of the things that I have to do outside of voting? There's a gentleman from Texas. His name is Wesley Hunt. And Wesley Hunt, I think, epitomizes this thought process, meaning the thought process that we need to give up on this idea of not only victimhood mentality, but also give up the idea that the color of your skin affects or interprets or provides or influences or creates the content of your character and your intelligence. Take a listen to what Wesley Hunt said to a reporter who was attempting to try and trap him in a race-baiting question. Take a listen.
There's been a lot of talk how there won't be any black Republican members in the new term.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Nothing. I don't understand how that's relevant.
Is there a problem with like recruitment? Or
I don't think it's a problem with anything. I'm not here because I'm black. I am here because I'm qualified representative for Congressional District 38, and the American people choose who they want to choose.
Yeah.
And the one thing I don't want to get into is this game of race bait all day, every day. If there's 4, if there's 10, if there's none, what we are talking about is who is the best person that is best qualified to fill a seat, regardless of the way that they look. And I tell people this all the time till I'm blue in the face. I represent a white majority district that President Trump would have won by over 20 points, and I won by 25 points the last time I ran. I'm being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. I don't care how many black people are here. I want the most qualified people that are here.
And
Thank you.
Oh, got it. Thank you, Harrison. There's been a lot of talk how there won't be any.
That's where we need to go. That's where we need to go. He doesn't care how many black people are there. We shouldn't care. We as Americans shouldn't even care. How many black people are there? How many Asians are there? How many, I don't even know if there's any other color. How many Native Americans are there? We shouldn't even care anymore. Because sooner or later, regardless of the actual sins of our past, and believe me, there are plenty that we can take a look at, historically speaking, there are plenty of that. But sooner or later, we need to walk away from the idea that focusing on race is still a requirement in 2026. We need to move beyond this. And that is what Wesley Hunt is basically saying. He's like, I'm a black man representing a majority white district. I'm here because I am qualified, because I am good at my job, because I am effective, because I do what my constituents want me to do. That's why I'm here. And that's exactly where people need to go and start thinking. We need to stop this idea, and unfortunately, the Democrats are going to hang on to this forever. Because for them, racism is on life support, and they need to sit here and pump the blood of that life support. They need to perform CPR on racism, because racism is the only thing that they really have that has been able to help them in all of their situations. See, these people, these leftist lunatics, they all think that race is a problem, that race is some sort of category that you can be placed in that will affect your ability to do something. And no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's the problem that we have with all of this. With this idea, and this is why the Democrats are trying so hard to hang on to this idea that, hey, we need a majority-minority district. No, you don't. This is why I'm sitting here and I'm telling you that the only qualification that should be in place for districting is literally this. How many people live there? You shouldn't care or even worry about who votes, how they vote, none of that. Because what's going to happen is after you make that change and after you set things up in the congruous way with the other qualifications that are irrelevant of things like race or voting, now all of a sudden you don't have to gerrymander every single damn time. If the district goes Democrat one way and Republican the next, well, maybe, just maybe, the losing party should take a look at, well, the candidate that they ran, he wasn't very good. He wasn't very good at messaging. He sure as hell didn't have a very good platform. You know, most of the people in the district were not happy over the fact that he claimed that he's, following Hamas or whatever, or maybe has a Nazi tattoo or something along those lines. Well, yeah, maybe we should, qualify our candidate a little better. I'm kind of thinking, some of my Whiskey Warrior P1s are like, well, wait a minute, that kind of got strange. Yeah. Because that's what's happening up in Maine. So this guy up in Maine, Governor Janet Mills has suspended her Senate campaign after failing to raise enough money to compete with the Nazi socialist Hamas lover Graham Plattner. Now, Graham Plattner is more than likely going to be the Democrat Party candidate and will face Republican Susan Collins in the general election for Senate. in Maine. Here's the thing. This guy has a known Nazi tattoo. He has a known affiliation with and has publicly stated that he supports Hamas. He has praised the Islamic supremacists of Hamas. See, this person honestly should probably not even be qualified to even run. I mean, why he is even running with this. Now, his tattoo, by the way, his tattoo is of a neo-Nazi, neo-Nazi, what am I saying? It's a Totenkopf tattoo. Depicts a skull and crossbones. It was mostly used by Hitler's Schutzstaffel, the paramilitary organization that led, planned, and executed the Holocaust. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. Either this guy was incredibly stupid and incredibly drunk when he got that tattoo, which so far he has not claimed either. Or he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that it was going to be a long-term thing on his skin. And because it was a long-term thing on his skin, and he didn't really give a shit because he felt that way. He sympathized or connected with them. See, this is what the Democrat Party actually is. This is what the Democrat Party actually is. They are the party of hate. They are the party of intolerance. They are the party that looks to keep the people that they represent in control, wrapped up onto the proverbial plantation, to keep you as long as they stay in power. That's what they're looking for. That's what they're attempting to do. And that's why they argue for the ability to keep people like persons of color, minorities, and even illegals voting. I've got some of that coming up in just a moment, but first, I need to take a quick break, but before I do, thank you, Ms. T, for gifting those memberships across the board. Bam, they're looking for you because they want you to get one of those memberships. So thank you, Ms. T, for that wonderful gift across the board for everybody. For those of you that don't know, over on Rumble, when you provide gifts, they are gift subscriptions to the channel. And they basically, it's money that somebody puts in and sends you, basically gifts a bunch of subscriptions to the people who are in the chat. And it usually goes and hits pretty much everybody on a whoever first come, first serve kind of basis. Ms. T has done it quite a few times, and I do appreciate that because obviously the subscription is to my channel. So it's for the paid subscription to my channel, and she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart. Thank you so much, Ms. T. All right. Really quick, let me talk about my favorite elixir, morning elixir, which is 1775 coffee. Well, coffee is my morning elixir. I drink it out of a 16-ounce cup. It is just fantastic for that. So, anyway, if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's only a small number of units available. Within each unit, you'll be receiving the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee that has clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you'll also be receiving what they call the gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also be receiving a frother that is strong enough to stir up your coffee, and your dreaded mother-in-law's opinions. Not like it really needs a lot, but, I mean, let's face it. She's got a lot of them. Anyway, as I was saying, you'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to the number 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they disappear. That's 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit today. All righty. G says, and I'm sorry I ended the commercial before I got the message, but G says 1775 coffee. Coffee strong enough to convince aliens to drop their whiskey and pick up a mug. Oh my goodness. Anyway, very, very creative. All right. Well, you know that thing that happens that Democrats all say, yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's illegal. It's happening. I mean, it's not happening. It's illegal. It's illegal. Yeah. Well, I got a couple of them right now. Apparently, President Donald Trump announced that roughly 300,000 illegal aliens in the United States were on the Social Security rolls. 300,000 were removed from Social Security rolls. And also, an additional 100,000 had been removed from Medicare as well. Now, wait a minute. I thought the Democrats said that no. Illegals are not getting Social Security benefits. They're not. Really? Just like illegals are not voting. Really? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been hit with that multiple times. Hey, even the Heritage Foundation did a study and said that only a very small percentage of people or illegals have actually been caught voting. Oh, well, that's the problem. First of all, the Heritage Foundation pointed out that they only analyzed the ones where the individuals were actually caught. They sort of ignored who was actually caught on the voter rolls. Yeah. Anyway. So, speaking at the Villages in Florida, Trump highlighted policies geared towards seniors, such as no tax on Social Security. He also spoke about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how it was the largest tax cut in American history. We've already talked about that, how taxes up 11% have been fueling the consumer purchasing power that is driving our GDP right now, or that is helping to drive our GDP right now. Anyway, he said, adding that as a result of those tax cuts, more than 51 million American seniors now pay a federal tax rate of 0. And then he continued and he says, together with Republicans in Congress, we've removed nearly 300,000 illegal aliens from the Social Security rolls. And we've removed more than 100,000 migrants from Medicare eligibility. It's 100,000 and the number is going up. Well, I thought it was illegal for illegals to be a part of Social Security and to gain Social Security benefits. Even if we only had one illegal that was able to game the system, that one would be too much. So this idea that, oh no, it's not happening because it's illegal is a whole bunch of crap. These people are illegal. They've already shown you that they don't really care about the criminality of their behavior. They've jumped across the border. They know they're here undocumented. That means illegal. They are illegal aliens. They obviously don't care about our rule of law. And so do you think that they're going to sit here and if they can get away with signing up for Social Security benefits, signing up for Medicare, signing up for Medicaid, signing up to vote, and actually voting? Do you think they're really going to care whether or not that's illegal? No, they've already broken the law by coming here. They don't give a crap. But of course, the Dems don't care because it's not the Dems' money. It's yours. It's taxpayer money. It's taxpayers. Oh, and as far as the voting is concerned, well, 90% of illegal aliens vote Democrat because they want to keep the money coming. They don't want to get cut off of their payday. They don't want to get cut off of their benefits. So what are they going to do? They're going to continually vote for the people who enable them to be able to allow for all of this to happen. What do you think happens in Minnesota, for an example? $9 billion estimated goes missing. $9 billion estimated goes to Somalians that are up in Minnesota. Some of them potentially here illegally, maybe. And what happens? They keep voting Democrat because the Democrats look the other way. Democrats like Tim Walz, Democrats like A.G. Ellison, they look the other way. I don't necessarily begrudge the aliens, the illegal aliens or the Somalians or whoever is getting money from the grift. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. I mean, seriously. So, yeah, but that's part of the problem. Because the Democrats, who are supposed to be handling things and taking care of the American people, are not taking care of the American people. They're not taking care of the American people. They're taking care of their voting bloc so that they can stay in power, so that they can continue to implement the BS policies and laws that are allowing all of this to happen and the grift. I haven't met a single Democrat who could tell me at all, where does health care fall in the Constitution as a mandated responsibility of the federal government? Not a single one can tell me which one of the enumerated powers that are in Article 1, Section 8 are allowed. Not one. Because 90% of them don't even read the Constitution. And of the ones that do, they don't even understand the historical context. They don't bother to research with books like this, Notes of the Debates on the Federal Convention by James Madison, or the Federalist Papers, which were all published to argue over the new Constitution of the United States, the replacement to the Articles of Confederation. In fact, most of them don't even know that we even had an Articles of Confederation prior to the Constitution, because many of them confuse the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, which actually were separated by quite a few years. The Declaration being signed in 1776 and the Constitution of the United States not being ratified until 1791. Yeah. But that's because they're a bunch of complete, utter, stupid morons. Well, this continues even further. Oh, yes, no. Non-citizens are not voting in our elections. Oh, really? Really? Well, not to mention the fact that there's already been a handful of non-citizens who have already been charged and tried with voting in our elections. Oh, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Kash Patel has just announced that 4 non-citizens have been charged with illegally voting in 2020, 2022, and 2024. Now, wait, I thought it was illegal to vote in being a non-citizen and voting in our presidential federal elections. That's illegal. So they're not going to do it, right, Dems? No. They're not going to do it because they're too afraid of getting caught. Really? Then why is it that we now have 4 on top of however many we've already picked up? Really? Yeah. Patel posted on X. He says, today, out of the FBI network, 4 individuals have been charged with illegally voting in federal elections and making false statements applying for U.S. citizenship. Oh. Yeah, you remember that 1993 National Voter Registration Act? It basically said that when you go in to apply for a government ID, in particular a driver's license, all you have to do is have this little checkbox where you check the box and you say, I certify that I am an American citizen and that I can and do want to vote in American elections. Do you know how many times they verify that? 0. Yeah. Very rare for anybody to actually verify that information. And even if the state does, they still slip through the cracks. Uh-huh. Yeah. And the SAVE Act, which of course was torpedoed by John Thune because he was afraid of removing the filibuster. Yeah. The Democrats don't want accountability. They don't want responsibility. They don't even think that persons of color have the ability to have accountability and responsibility because they have zero respect for those people. And they don't even care whether or not the illegals are voting in their elections. In fact, some Democrats are even helping illegals. Or, well, they're helping to forge voter registrations. Take a look at this guy. Oh, he's a former Democrat mayoral candidate. Yeah. His name is Henrylin Ibezim. He's a former Democrat mayoral candidate for New Jersey, somewhere in New Jersey. He has now admitted to forging voter registration applications during the 2021 Democrat primary. Oh, yeah. Yep. He's admitted. Oh, yeah, I forged them. Oh, but Democrats, I thought you guys were like, it's law-abiding. Oh, yeah, you're law-abiding. Democrats, states, Minnesota, California, all kinds of fraud. Now you have a mayoral candidate in New Jersey who is, he pleaded guilty to forging nearly 1,000 voter registration applications. They were forged during the 2021 primary for the Plainfield mayoral seat. Yeah, he pleaded guilty to voter registration fraud. I thought that couldn't happen, Democrats. Sure. By the way, most of the forged applications that he created were filled out by only 3 or 4 people. Now, do you honestly think that mail-in balloting is any different? I mean, all you have to do is get copies of the ballots and just have 3 or 4 people fill them out. That's pretty simple, and then send them in. I mean, how easy is that? How easy is that? So, and you sit here and you wonder and you say, no, our elections are the safest and most secure elections ever. No, they're not. They're not even close. Because we don't verify hardly anything. Hardly anything. Oh, and by the way, let me just take a second, because these Democrats, they don't just like go for the gusto or go for the gold in the beginning. No, they beat you down inch by inch. And pretty soon, and this is their pattern, this is why it's taken us 40, 50, whatever plus years to get to this point, to where all of a sudden we're going, what the hell happened to our country? And this is how. They start with a simple process. For an example, there's a Dems socialist who is a part of the Los Angeles City council members. Los Angeles City Council members. This is a person who is part of the Democrat Socialists of America. It's a faction on the Los Angeles City Council. And this individual, he's led by Councilman Hugo Soto Martinez. Martinez is Council District 13 seat. He's proposing a plan right now to let illegal aliens vote in city elections. City elections. Well, yeah, let's just start. And this is, by the way, this isn't the first time that this has happened. Okay. This isn't the first time because San Francisco has already allowed it. New York is allowing it, as far as I'm aware. Okay. They're already starting with the whole idea of like, it can't hurt these people to vote because, I mean, they live in the cities, right? Do you honestly believe that these cities are actually separating out the votes? Like they're actually sitting there and saying, hey, you know what? If you are not a citizen, you only get a city vote. Do you honestly believe that they're doing that? They may or may not be. Now, Arizona actually does have a pattern and a process that if you cannot prove that you are an Arizona resident, then you only get a federal ballot. But that's the thing. They only care about whether or not you're an Arizona resident. They don't give a shit if you're a citizen. Because when you present yourself and you say, hey, I want to vote. Oh, do you live in Arizona? Oh, well, here's my driver's license, but it's an Oregon driver's license. Oh, guess what? Here you go. There's your federal ballot. Because the state takes on zero responsibility as to whether or not to say you have the ability to vote in a federal election. They don't even bother. And that's how some, and a couple in particular that I can recall right off the top of my head, illegals were caught voting in Arizona. Yeah. Well, this council member, by the way, they've he and somebody else, another person called Isabel Llorado, they have unveiled a plan to let non-citizens vote in Los Angeles elections. There's 1.5 million non-citizens in LA. It is 15% of their entire population. Now think about this. If we were to go and extrapolate that across the entire United States, talk about putting the finger on the scale, literally, for Democrats. Now here's the arguments that they're going to take. They're going to be like, oh, well, you know what? Non-citizen voting in cities in California, we've never had a problem. No, not one issue. You know, everything is completely 100% safe and secure. Yeah. 100% safe and secure. 100% safe and secure. Where 4 people just got indicted for illegally voting in our elections. And that's just what we know about from today. Where 300,000 people have been purged from our Social Security voter or Social Security benefit rolls when they're not even supposed to be able to apply. Yeah. When they sit there as Democrats and say, oh yeah, black people, well, you know, they're actually too stupid to get a voter ID, even though they already have an ID and they know how to drive. They have a driver's license. They know where the DMV is at. Yeah. Oh, they can't use a computer in order to be able to get a voter ID. Really? Oh, what are they going to do if they can't get their, birth certificate? I showed you on this program not that long ago how easy it is to go and just go on the computer online, which computers are pretty much prevalent anywhere. I know I can walk into any library and use them. The 99.9% of Americans today that work in any given section of society understand pretty much how to operate a computer and can just about Google anything. In fact, I know of even the lowest income individual who has iPhones. They can search right there on their iPhone. How many apps do we have that are able to be searchable right off an iPhone? Seriously. These are all claims and excuses that are attempting to do one singular thing, and that is to usurp America, to usurp the individualism, the individual responsibility and accountability that is a predominant principle and value of this country. And that's what they are looking to do. That's what the Democrats want. And as long as you, as an individual, a part of the Democrat Party, sit there and are like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Holy crap, that makes sense. Just to let illegals just vote. Or, yeah, it just makes sense that, the Republicans, all they want to do is suppress my vote. I mean, other than the fact that I already have a voter ID, so I've got nothing to really worry about. But hey, that's it could be somebody else that's being suppressed. And I got to stand up for the little guy, even though I'm the little guy. See how stupid they are? How they're trying to make sure that you as an individual are not able to exercise your individual rights because of some phantom known as victim. Some phantom known as oppression, which literally doesn't exist in America today. Because if you were oppressed, believe me, you wouldn't have that iPhone being as, not being able to pay for it. You wouldn't have the ability to go into a library and access any kind of wealth of information that you ever wanted. You wouldn't have the ability to get a driver's license and be able to drive, because if you were oppressed, you wouldn't have those rights. You wouldn't have the freedom to go and do these things. Yeah. And that's what the Democrats want to do. Sorry, it sounds crass, but all I'm going to say is the Democrats want to keep their illegal votes. They want to keep their persons of color votes, because they are attempting to keep you all under the even imagined chains of slavery and indentured servitude to them as the American Party of the Democrats. They don't want you to wake up and realize that you actually do have the power. You can leave the Democrat Party. And as of right now, they're freaking out, because there are people who are waking up. There are individuals like Wesley Hunt who are basically saying, I'm not here because of my skin color. I'm here because of what I can do. Meritocracy is what made this country great. Having the ability to go as far as you are willing to work hard to go do. That you are only limited not by some phantom ghost known as oppression, but by your own skills, abilities, desire, and fortitude. The ability for you to not accept the word no is all that it takes in order for you to succeed in this country, regardless of who you are. Regardless of what skin color you are, regardless of what religion you are. See, that's the beauty of America. That's what America, the land of opportunity, is all about. And that's what, hopefully, many people who have been stuck on the Democrat quote-unquote plantation are now realizing, and they're going to be walking away from it. All right, folks. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, some thumb sideways across all of my platforms. Before I take off, though, I have a very special birthday. Sean, one of our wonderful longtime whiskey warriors, who has been a part of a fantastic pledge. It is his birthday today. I won't say how old because then you can determine what his actual date of birth is, and I don't want to have that responsibility on me. But that being said, Sean, buddy, I just want to say to you, happy birthday, sir. And this one is for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sean. Happy birthday to you. And many more. Happy birthday, Sean. I hope you enjoy your birthday pizza. Everybody else, have a fantastic weekend. We will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.